Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Hello, and thank you for coming back for another episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show. Once again, I have the pleasure to be here bringing you another story. Today we're talking about writing a love letter to self. The concept is really interesting to me. And so when I heard about this initiative, I thought this is a really cool movement. Just imagine what the world would be like if we all wrote love letters to ourselves. My friend today is Irma Paredes, and I will tell you a little bit about Irma. She is the perfect person to be talking about this subject. So here's a little bit about Irma. Irma is a love leader, spiritual entrepreneur, and poet. She's peace, harmony ambassador. I feel good even saying these words. Soul life journeys and energy sound healer, and Tao healing hands practitioner of the Tao Academy. The mission of her purpose is to serve humanity, to discover consciousness, to discover and activate our awakening love consciousness through self-love by writing love letters to ourselves. In doing so, she says, emotional and physical suffering is eradicated from our individual and collective existence. I got chills just reading that. I hope you're along for the ride. I hope you're going to stay with us for the next hour and accompany us with your comments, your questions, your experiences. And let's make this another inspiring and informative and motivating show. And please, I want to encourage you to share this with other people who you think might benefit from this. And together we can make a difference. We can make an impact. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome on Dela's Voice, my friend, Irma Paredes. Hello.
Hi. I love it.
I love that laugh, Irma.
Thank you. I feel like a little kid. Actually, all morning I've been feeling very jolly and being silly and thinking, I just want to vibrate laughter and playfulness. Even though I'm, most people see an older person, it's like, I'm too young to be old.
What is age anyways?
Exactly. I'm glad that you see it that way.
Oh, of course. I always think, honestly, so next year I'm turning 50. And I think of who I know that was 50, like say years ago. I've had aunts and grandmas who were 50. And I remember them being so much older than I feel right now.
Yes, I know.
So I don't know if it's just it was just a different perspective back then, or the times have changed.
I think it's a bit of everything, a little bit of everything. I'll tell you, I don't mind sharing my age. I used to say to people, guess. We used to say, what cream do I use? And it's the oil of Valerian. Remember, there was the whole thing of the age. But I'm 60 years old. and I don't feel my age.
No.
My spirit doesn't feel that age. And actually, the more I think about it, the number, it doesn't mean anything other than just illustrate a concept of what the evolution of my humanity is.
That's a really good way of putting it. So for the people who are watching this, how old do you feel? I mean, seriously, ask yourself. A lot of times we get so we get so involved in that number, and it's like you forget how old is your soul? Like how what do you feel inside?
Yeah.
How young do you feel? This is what I want to say. Not how old do you feel? How young do you feel?
How young do you feel? Because to be honest, we can go back to any stage of age that we already lived at any time, on any given moment, according to the situation and circumstances you're dealing with. And right now, I feel like I just want to be playful with the freedom and the wisdom of who I am now. Right?
Oh,
And
it's perfect. It's perfect, Irma. We're going to say hi to some people who are already with us. If you're watching this, I want to thank you. And please leave us some comments. Then we can see you actually and say hello. So we've had some comments already dropped in for us. My friend Deborah Sweezy, she's so sweet. She is with Stroke Foundation. She Stroke TV Foundation, and she has a show, and she talks to all sorts of survivors.
I would love to connect with her.
Yes, absolutely. Deborah is a great person to connect with, and she's always here. She's such a support.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, my friend. And Frida's here. And Frida's my mom, actually, Irma, and she's always here too. I have some really awesome viewers who
I love that
support. Yes, and Robert, my friend, is here. Good afternoon, Robert, and he says good afternoon, Dela and Irma. And Babak, my friend, is here, and he says hello. And Deborah says, love this so much already. She loves this topic already. I know she's one of those young at hearts.
All right.
Yes. So let's see here. People are saying hi to each other. Awesome. Okay. Deborah says, I feel 44, not 64.
Yeah.
Does not look 64, I tell you. She wears a cowboy hat. Honestly, she's hot. This
good.
Hot.
Yes, that's awesome. You know something? I have always loved gray hair, and I couldn't wait to have gray hair. And I just love the beauty of my hair, right? And but I've always said I feel like 30 in my 30s. Right now, I feel like I'm in my early 40s, and it's like I remember what that was like. So it's like yes. So just going with the feeling of how I'm feeling.
That's it. And if you are hearing some chitter chatter in the background, those are Irma's grandkids.
Just one.
Oh, just one. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
He's blah, 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 with friends.
Talking to his friends.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here we go. We are going to start this talk. Irma, I'm going to put up the banner. And that way, when people join us, they'll know what we're talking about.
Perfect.
What the heck is a love letter to self?
It's really simple. A pen, a piece of paper, and the time to focus on writing a love letter to yourself. And that's just the basics. Anybody can write a love letter to themselves. Anybody at any time. And love letters to self love letters is more common. A love letter, period. It's always, from when I recall growing up, what I would think of a love letter. You know, we used to write letters and mail them out, and we would receive them in the mailbox. And
what
it was
the heck was that?
I know, right? And anybody could write a love letter. Often, a love letter was designed to be written to someone outside of yourself, to someone that you love, to someone you appreciate, to someone that to your beloved, or to someone you wanted to make them know that you really appreciate it. And it was your own handwriting. But we didn't think of the particulars of what it takes to write a love letter, period. The significance or the impact once it's received on the other side by the other person. And I've been a word love letter person for a long, long time. I began writing poetry at the age of 13. I come from a country where well known for poetry, Chile, South America. And my mother's a poet. And so I've had an affinity to words. Coming to Canada in 1975, I was so in love with English. So I was eager to learn it, to mimic the movements of the words, to be corrected. And even to this day, I've been here for a long time, but even to this day, I say to people, if you hear my pronunciation off a bit, let me know, because I always wanted to improve my English. I love the sound of language. And in Spanish, I'm kind of sit back and going, wow, that sounds so beautiful, because languages are such a unique way of communicating, right? It's sound, energy, and vibration, and we don't realize the power of that. Now, love letter to self brings that awareness to you and your own voice, and listening to it and being with it and accepting it. It also gives you access to reach your inner being, one that seems so far away and not close enough, or that is there sometimes but not quite there. So love letters, going back to the beginning of this, it was an experience to write something for someone else. That's the basic knowledge of love letters. Now, for me in my journey, my spiritual journey, that I had a specific experience throughout my life, I was there in 2016, kind of regrounding myself in a relationship that I thought that it was going to go on, and it didn't. And I found myself that whether it did go on or it didn't, what really mattered to me was that I wanted this human being that had granted me, and I granted him, for us to be together, the opportunity to acknowledge him for loving me the way he loved me and for the way he didn't love me. And that all of it contributed to my awareness and my discovery of myself at a deeper level when it comes to loving another human being. And I wrote him a beautiful letter. The experience was so rich. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I love the feeling, because I just thought, when he receives this, he'll know that my love for him was unconditional. And I went out of my way. I wrote the letter. I love pens, and I'm very picky about the feeling of a pen in my hand. It has to communicate with the touch. So I found a really beautiful pen, blue ink. I got a nice piece of paper. Being an artist and a poet, I picked a paper that it spoke to me, the envelope. And then when I finished writing, and I thought, I'm not going to give it to him. I'm going to mail it out to him. And I went and I bought a stamp. And then I took myself to a mailbox, and I just thought, wow, this is really precious. And I sent it out with love.
I want to know what happened.
Well, he received it and he was very touched. It didn't change the course of our future to not be together, but we're still in communication, and he remembers that was he hadn't never received a letter like that before. And he felt fully acknowledged and appreciated for all the ways he wasn't and all the ways he was. And we learn a lot from each other by doing that. And we have the richest conversations about love and everything that has to do with relationship, even to this day. So the experience was very rich for me. And being a poet, I thought to myself, I will always be looking for myself. I've been in the transformational, work since 2007 in particular, but before that, I've been writing poetry to put somewhere the weight of my emotions and my thinking, because I couldn't find somewhere where to place them. There wasn't any space where I felt safe enough to share the fullness of me, or whatever was not full yet. And the experience was so rich that was on the 4th of January 2016. I wrote that letter at a cafe in I forget right now, but it's a really popular place down by Sherborne, King, somewhere there.
I wouldn't know. I
can't believe that I can't remember right now, because it's right there. Okay, so if I remember, I'll put it in. Anyhow, it's a really beautiful area, and I left that area that evening, and throughout the entire week, I just had this sensation in my heart. And then by Sunday morning, I decided that I would return to the same cafe. And it turned out to be Monday, January 11th, 2016. I went back to the same cafe. I got my pen, my favorite pen, the right kind of paper, the envelope, the stamp, and I went and wrote myself a love letter to me. And I did exactly the same thing. Take it to the mailbox and send it out with love. When I got it, I was so geeky. It's like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I kept it. I didn't open it. And I thought, when the right time I need to open this up, I will know when, and I will open it then. Now, since then, I decided to share that gift. The experience was so rich and profound that I began to go back to that cafe on the 11th of every month. And I did that for a while. And I would write a love letter to myself, and then I invited people to do the same. So I ended up doing this all the time. And I traveled some cafes in the Greater Toronto area, then introduced it to other people. I had little groups. And over time, I just kept doing it without any specific intention other than just share it, have people experience this. And that really opened up my spiritual journey, my heart, to such a way that new things began to happen with me. I began to feel things and see things. And it allowed me to provide people with guidance, spiritual guidance that I didn't know I had for me to give. And the love letter to self has been introduced to be honest, I don't know the number of people. I used to say 300 because I know that I did that myself, but it's been passed on and shared with other people. I've had friends of mine contact me, or sometimes in conversation, they'll tell me that they'll thank me actually. They'll say, thank you for sharing the love letter to self, because they shared it with someone else, and it actually did so much goodness for them. People were brought out. People have experienced coming out of their own depression. People feeling prettier, self-worthiness coming back to them. But they tapped into something that I have no power or control over, which is their inner being, their inner connectedness, their inner completeness with themselves. And they actually tapped into a power of their own. And that I can't take credit for. I can only say thank you for the privilege to be someone that delivers something out of the pure joy of discovering something myself, right? Like I didn't know. And actually, being self-expressed sometimes is sort of like something that makes me shy or timid or reserved to share, because I don't know how it's going to impact people, and I don't want to provoke negative feelings or sensations in other human beings. But I kept doing it.
I have so many questions. Let's take a look at the comments and see what people are saying. My friend Jack's here. Jack Vincent's here. Simone is here. Let me see here. So Simone says, I need to write a love letter to self. And Badia's here. Thank you, Badia. And okay, so Deborah says, me too, I have to connect with my pen. That's really interesting. As an artist, she's an artist herself, so she has to connect with her pen. I too, I like nice pens. This is my thing. I do like a nice pen. Jack says, it is much easier to appreciate others than ourselves. And
exactly.
That was going to be my question, because that's not easy, writing a letter to self. So how do you explain this to people? So you're at a cafe and you're writing a letter, and so what happens? So people,
what happens? First of all, I'll share with my friends that I'll be doing this, and I haven't done it for a while, but now we're able to step out into certain places. So I was actually just thinking, what can I do next where I can bring people and have them experience it live in person, and I'm going to do something. But basically, I would prepare myself, take a certain number of papers and pens so people would have no reason to say no to. And I would go to this cafe, and I had an intention, and my intention was that everywhere I went, only love would be present, and only those that wanted to experience love in a different way would be there. And I wouldn't just invite people. Like, there would be people in the cafe, and I would sit there and wait if anybody showed up. And I would say hello, and I would say something nice and engage inside, whether they wrote a letter with me or not. And that's what I would do. Like, intuitively, internally, I was guided to just do it. And it didn't matter whether I was feeling nervous or, oh, they're going to think I'm weird. It doesn't, when you're fulfilling your mission in life, your purpose, actually, I think fear disappears completely from your beingness. So I would sit there and do that. Now, what happened is that I began to add little things to the experience. I began to add stickers, but not just any stickers. Like, everything that is inside of love is positive. There's no, and if there's anything negative, I have to send love to it, because the negative also has a purpose, has a reason to exist. And everything that is good, there's something that isn't. The polarity is always present. So to be upset with the polarity that is not in my favor is to be reinforcing the negative into my space. So with love, it has no realm to fight with, because it's being loved anyways and appreciated. So I began to add little stickers, but everything was love, hearts, things, pretty things, butterflies, unicorns, so I started to go to Dollarama, to be honest, and buy these stickers, and I invite people. So once people say yes, I get them to sit down. I get them clear to have an intention.
So what do you say? Do you want to write a love letter to yourself?
Yeah,
just like that.
Yeah. Would you like to write a love letter to yourself? I'll guide you through it, because they don't know what to do, right? There's one beautiful soul, and I won't say name or anything like that, but because I do this with men, women, I do this with teenagers, little kids, with everybody. There's no age or distinction. You're a human being. Please experience this if you feel like to do it. And there was someone that I guided through this love letter, because anyone that wants me to work with them, they have to do a love letter. It opens them up to something about themselves, because I am not them. I don't experience their emotions the way they experience it. And it took him hours. He had never had the experience of doing this for himself. He cried. He didn't know that he could cry like that. Because men or women, we have a life created through emotions, thoughts, names, objectivities. Like, everything's an object and defined by words, negative words that build a certain resistance to even allow themselves to say the word love, or that I am worthy of love or being loved. And we look for someone or something outside of our bodies, outside of who we are, our lives even, right?
To give us love.
Yeah.
That's so sad. And so I'm not the only one who's never written a love letter to herself. I want to ask people who are watching this, have you ever written a love letter to yourself? I mean, this would be wonderful. And why didn't I? I don't know. Why didn't I? Nobody asked me.
Yeah. And the other thing is that it wasn't in our conscious back then. If we go back to the different years we were growing up, what was the main conversation in the mainstream of life? Right? And being consciously aware of who we are internally from our within wasn't a prime thing. Religions were more in the scope of conversations, and, the religions defining us or finding meaning to our lives through religion. We're in a different era now. So we're really have become the evolution of humanity has become very focused on here. This body this is a vessel, a divine vessel, and life doesn't occur over there with the other person, it occurs over here through me. And love letter to self really brings that to place. Now, when people do a love letter, the way I started today. It's actually an experience, and I do a workshop. And I have now an actual program. This is not something that I did because for 2.5 years, I actually created a community that was based on love letter to self. And they were all invited to a conversation to expand from that experience and what they discovered about themselves, and to learn to really listen to our inner being in such a way that they would transform themselves because they understood, that they knew, that they accepted love for themselves through them.
So I love that. I think it's really powerful.
It is.
Deborah says she's written one before. Good for you. What was your experience like, Deborah? This is what I want to say, is we talk about self-love so much these days. I think if it's one of those terms that I think we hear a lot these days. I don't know what's happening in the world, but it's our consciousness. It's changing, isn't it?
It is.
We're becoming more in tune with ourselves, and finding that self-love is really, really key if we're going to love.
It is.
So is this love letter going to help us achieve more self-love?
Yes, it is. Not only that, but you said something really important, right? That what self-love, when the evolution of self-love became something that people would be paying attention to, it was even based on where we were too. Like there's anything wrong with where we were. They had it like it meant, having a special bath or buying materialistic things to compensate for what was missing. The missing wasn't out here in the materialistic world. The missing was within ourselves. The absence of connectedness with our self-worthiness, with our self-respect, with our self-value, with our self-dreamy eyes. Like we're dreamers and creators, and we're so strong, and we have a spirit, a soul that just calls us forth, right? So the truth about love letter and self-love, I should say, self-love is to become someone that you've always longed to be and you knew you were. And the power and strength within you is even greater than what you think you are. So in this period of change, global change for all of humanity, we've had I won't say too much time or not enough, but definitely extreme amount of time to get focused on the inner self and to really evaluate what's important. And we can face anything and everything when we know who we are for ourselves, when we know what our strengths and what our weaknesses and how we dance with them and how we can combine them, where to improve, where to excel, because excelling provides something extra to who we are. So instead of waiting for someone to approve or disapprove of you, for someone giving you permission or not permission, like there's a lot we don't control. And self-love is not about controlling. It's about accepting oneself and really nurturing the areas that are weak and the areas that are strong, and bring them to a space where they both can work together and be together and flow and show up even stronger when challenges come up. Like one of the things that I am very aware of is the power of our words. And I grew up in a society where nicknames were very popular. I had many. For every way that I reacted or responded to life, there was a nickname for me. And I grew up thinking that I was a weak human being. And that diminished my own strength, inner strength. So
I want us to take a break, Irma.
Okay.
And we're going to come right back to where you left. So just here, where we left off, nicknames, okay? We're going to come back to this, but we do want to take a short break and
absolutely
and hear from our sponsors. So hold that thought. Everybody stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome to Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop, serving Newmarket, Ontario and area for over 18 years. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop is here to make your flower sending experience a pleasure. Please visit us online at www.flowersandthingsflowerandgiftshop.com or call us at 905-830-0024. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop. We thrive on your satisfaction. And we're back talking to Irma Paredes on writing a love letter to self.
Thank you. And by the way, I got to tell you, I love your sponsor.
Oh, thank you.
I love what you have created. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Irma, before we left on the break, you were talking about nicknames. You said when you were a kid, you were younger, you were given a lot of nicknames. I can think of a few for myself too. Okay, so let's.
It's something that is very common, and sometimes people. Here's the thing: we didn't know better either. We didn't know better, and we did it without the awareness that we have today. Like now, we know that our words have an impact. We know that one word can build you or can destroy. Like this. You can take back a word.
Not once it's said.
Once it's said, it's out of you. It goes into the other people's listening, and it remains there. And what happens internally in their mind is that word creates a story. It maximizes itself to a level that it's only controlled by the person here, and it attracts or aligns or attaches to other words that they've heard in the past. So it becomes a mountain of an impact. And that can really affect someone's self-esteem, self-confidence, because they're listening to their mind, right? They're not talking about what they're saying here to themselves. They keep it inside, right?
Of course. And that's why, so we make up stories.
Absolutely.
So you might say to me, I don't know, you might say something to me without even thinking. I don't know. I can't think of an example right now. Del, what's up? Like, look at your background. And so like that, something like that. Look at your background. And I could take that in so many different ways, but I can make up stories in my own head. Oh, what did she mean? Did she not like my background? Did she... That's exactly a silly example.
You will go with anywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
We do that. And guess what? Children do that. So when we speak to children or we say things about children, we leave them with a very disempowering and a very powerful component in their brain. So we don't realize that, right? Now, I'll say something that is like, I notice you have a lot of positive affirmations around you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I used to do that as a young person, and I was called names for it. I would be laughed at, or "Oh, you're crazy," like that's a big one in my. I love being crazy because I bring out what I love about what I believe needs to be out in the world, and it's good. And to date, it's like everywhere people are talking about the things that I used to dream about. Right?
Isn't that wonderful?
It is.
You're like, I used to. I like that. I've been doing that forever.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. There's a young lady that I love a lot, and she not so long ago, I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we ran into each other, and then she messaged me via Facebook, and she thanked me for all the times when she used to come over and visit my daughter. She would go into different spaces and she would open a cover and there was a quote about loving self. She would there was one in the bathroom that she recalls that really was poignant for her, but she thought never ever someone had left a message for her in the bathroom, in the mirror. Like she opened it and it was just for her.
Yeah. And
she thanked me for it. Right. So it's like years later. So it's really important. Like we don't realize where we've done certain things to people by the way we speak to them, right? We really don't.
Nor to ourselves.
And to ourselves. So
Irma, she did say that she might have this problem with her computer, so no worries. She'll be back very soon. And I'm actually going to read some of the comments. It's perfect timing. So let me see here. I'm going to go back up and see what you've written for us. Robert, thank you so much. As always, you're so engaged when you are here. So let me see here. Debbie says, so she's written a letter for herself. And what happened? She says, I wrote a love letter to myself as I needed to get out of a negative headspace. My husband needs surgery next week, and it helped me get back to a very positive place instead of fearful one. It's like I received it from God as well as myself. And she says hi to her handsome husband. Is he here? Hello, handsome husband of Deborah. Yeah, it's amazing. When Debbie was, when Irma was talking about, you know, the words that we say to ourselves, the words that we say out loud. And I mean, I don't know if you can relate, but I can definitely relate. And so the words come out from someone else's mouth without really having the intention to hurt us, but we take that and we make it so hurtful to ourselves, and it's all about our perspective. So we have you back.
Yes, I apologize for that.
Welcome back. No, I was just reading through the comments. So I was saying, you know, you're so right, because the words that come out of somebody else's mouth, they're not really meant to. They're not. The intention is not really to hurt us, but we take it that way sometimes.
Actually, sometimes it's both. Sorry about that. That's my daughter leaving.
Hello, daughter.
Hello, daughter.
Just tell her she's live on Dela.
We're live. Yes. Here's the thing: is that sometimes this is something new that I'm really learning and really applying to my life right now. Which a lot of the things we respond to, we're not responding to them. We're responding to something that gets triggered in our mind or at a soul level that we don't understand, or why we even react to them. So our responses, we're reacting to someone reacting to something that's happening with them, not by what I'm saying. Now, there's something else about intentions, that there was a lack of understanding, and the intention of your speaking is really important to pay attention to, because where are you coming from, love or not? A lot of things have been said, even to myself as a child. A parent would be taking out their anger on me, and not because they wanted to hurt me. It's just that they didn't have control of that emotion. And that's one of the really important things about self-love, is that when we become aware of how we hurt others, in the ways we're being, the way we speak, the way we create something, an environment or whatever, has an effect over there. So we have that awareness. But there were parents that, you know, to be hard with you was I love you. This is the way it is. You know, I'm going to smack you. This is the way I love you. I'm smacking you because I love you. I'm trying to correct you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't. It caused trauma.
Yeah.
And those moments get captured in our internal being, in our bodies, emotionally. There's a lot of density in our bodies, a lot of stiffness that is occurring in the bodies, because people are healing at a muscular level and they don't realize it. So love letter really taps onto, it has people tapping into their own self-love, to their own, the absence of it, and whatever is there for them to tap into. So it's a really powerful. Now, as a spiritual person and as a spiritual leader myself, I guide people. I do a lot of meditations. Today as a Dao Hands practitioner, I focus a lot on doing, I apologize for that, my friend. I prepare myself. So I dedicate extensive amount of time to being in the field of this energy of love consciousness, right? Because if I'm talking about love, But I don't even have to do it intentionally. Like I have to be love everywhere. It's in me. It's within all of us. We have this natural source energy of ourselves that is love. And if it's fueled enough attention, it can really be empowered to rise and to bring more awareness. So you begin to change yourself through your own consciousness of understanding of what love is for you. It's no longer what someone else said or the great books told us. It's what you experience with yourself. And that changes you.
I'm with you. Like, I'm totally with you. I'm a big believer that love is the answer to all. Like, I totally feel that with all of my heart. I totally believe that. There's a lot of skepticism out there. And so a lot of people would say, Dela, you live in a bubble. Dela, you're so gullible.
Yes.
Dela, wake up and smell the wars.
I've heard that one too.
Yeah, wake up and see the world, the reality. And so how do you answer that?
How do you answer that? I answer by saying, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for voicing yourself. Thank you for sharing what you believe in. A lot of times the negativity that people express, it just reveals to me where they're not. It gives me the understanding of how to be with them. I don't make them wrong. And if they do, if something gets triggered within me, it's not for me to tell them to change. It's for me to go and look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, what's that about?
What does that got to do with me?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll be with me. Now, here's the thing. The compassion that I want to give to the world, I give it over here. Because I know where I can go with it. And I have experienced depression in my life, and I don't want to go back there. I already know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of the things that I really appreciate about Love Letter to Self, and today I call it Love Letter to My Soul, is what is done for people. One of the young participants that I had, which is a dear, she's like family to me, but she had the experience of writing a love letter to self. And she saved it for a rainy day when she wouldn't feel pretty. Well, there was one of those days, and she still has the letter, and she loves it. Every time she reads it, she sees something new for herself.
Did you ever open those letters?
Some of them I have, but not all of them. And actually, I'm planning to open them up soon because I want to see what I said to me, and I want to see what there is for me to share with the world about them through them. Now, I didn't bring one with me this time, but
I was going to say, would you read one for us?
I don't have one with me. However, I do have. If I may share that, I do have a Facebook group, and I kind of changed certain things because I'm in a different place today, and I have a different understanding about this journey. But I once shared. I did a love letter to self with about 32 women. And one of the women came back to me and thanked me. She said, my son was depressed. I was getting really frustrated with him. I didn't know what to do anymore because he wasn't a young kid. He was a young man. And she was getting tired of him being depressed because it really was affecting the environment of the home. And he wasn't willing to go to see a counselor. He wasn't willing to do anything about helping himself to bring himself out of it. So she invited him to do something that she learned to do, which was love letter to self.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
she doesn't know what made him say yes, but he did. She goes, I was really like, what? You're going to do it? And he did. And apparently he did to such a degree that the next time I saw her, which was about a month or two, I think later, she thanked me. She said, he's not depressed anymore. I said, really? Goes, yeah.
What do you think happened?
He tapped into his self-consciousness about self-love. I wasn't there to guide him. But because of the flow, the purity of the intention of that love letter, the message that I'm communicating and I'm sending it out, is my intention is for every human being that writes a love letter to self to share it with the world, to share what they discover, and to have it spread out. See, when I started the Facebook group, I want 1 million people to write a love letter at the same time on the same day. And that would be magnificent. But then that's going to have me focus on having that as a goal, a target result. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested to maintain the flow, the energy vibration moving consistently through myself and others. So I created that page now to be community, because I want people to share the experience based on what they understand about it. It doesn't have to be exactly the way I do it or I deliver it.
So how do they find you on Facebook?
Facebook, Irma Paredes.
just your name, Irma Paredes,
Irma Paredes. Yes.
And you would show up. Okay, good. Now, we have like about less than 14 minutes.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, if someone is listening today and they want I want to give this a try. So could they do it on their own? Are you able to give us a few guidelines to start?
Yes. So first of all, I want to share with all of you that on July 17th, I'm hosting a free online Love Letter to Self workshop from 10:30 to 3 o'clock. And it's free. Yeah. Awesome. You're all invited. I would love to have you participate.
This is through Facebook?
Through Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's the structure. It's an Eventbrite registration. So I'll send it to you so that you can share it with your viewers.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it includes meditations and invocations that I deliver. Now, for everyday person, for everyday moment, for everyday life, for anybody that wants to just do it and experience it, I always ask people, what would you do for someone that you're so in love with? What would you do? What would you create? What environment in your own home would you create for someone that you love to, like you would move the mountains for them? You want them to know how much you love them and appreciate them. And you're so grateful. You would just like, tell me to jump in, tell me how high to jump in, I'll jump it. Like, however that's saying, like it's unconditional the way you love them, right? Like you'll do the crazy thing. But more than anything, you really want them to know how much you love them. Okay, turn that around. And however you think you want to create the environment first, the physical environment where you are, make time to do that for yourself. This is for that person that you long to know better. Who's that? Isn't there a gap there between you and your connectedness to the real you that you want to be and sit with, be happy with? So creating the environment. Would you play music? Would you give them a nice pillow to sit on? Would you clear the table? What would you do? This is a guest that's coming to be with you. What would you do for that guest? The other thing that I bring the awareness to is, if I had a baby in my arms, how would I treat that baby? And how that baby is how I would be with that baby is how you want to be with you. Grant yourself the time to create everything about the moment you're going to write that love letter to yourself, based on everything that you think you want to do for someone else that you really appreciate and acknowledge. Because this time you're going to be acknowledging your humanity. You're going to discover something for yourself. And in the letter, so pick a paper that you love. I prefer always to have people write on a 1 page, 8x11, white paper, a blue ink pen, one that you really love. Why blue? Well, I don't remember right now the exact reason why, but blue is trust.
Does something subconsciously.
It does, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people will tap into the colors of the chakras and, so how's it? And that's great. But blue, you're taking yourself to another dimension by writing this letter, and you're trusting yourself to do that. So what better color than the color that represents and communicates trust? Blue.
Mm-hmm.
and that it feels good. And give yourself ample time to be with that, because you don't know what's going to show up. There may be an emotion that will show up. So date the letter, and begin the letter with dear. And how would you like to address yourself? Dear love, my dearest one. I remember one time somebody addressed me, my dear lady. Oh my God, I melted from inside out. Nobody has said that to me the way that person said it. So what would you like to hear someone say to you? How would you like to be addressed? Not Miss or Mrs. No, like you. Now, the other thing that I recommend is for people to get a little mirror and to use it. Look at yourself. What do you like? What would you like someone to address about yourself, right? What words would you like to hear? When we speak to children, what we want a child to feel this way. When you're a young, my grandson is being a little loud. And how would you like to be addressed as a young teenager, as a young woman, as a mother? What would you like as a woman, period? There's a sensual being there. As a man that wants to be appreciated for being the kind of person that he is, right? That people see him for who he is inside. Because we don't know ourselves. So how do people know us?
I'm just going to take a second here, Kim. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking this is also very simple. It's so true that we're often looking for other people to say those things to us. It's like, okay, I don't know what's there to love about me, but let me hear you say it. If you say it, then I know I'm loved.
Yeah.
And, right. If you say, Dela, you have a beautiful smile, then I know I have a beautiful smile. But it's like, look in the mirror and say, Dela, you have a beautiful smile. And that should, I mean,
so one of the
as powerful? Why isn't it as powerful as hearing it from someone else?
Because we have been trained to hear the validation from outside ourselves.
Yeah.
The internally is too powerful. People that are so confident, what do we think? We were trained to make it wrong and bad. Oh, it's your ego. Not necessarily. Not always ego is like that. Sometimes ego can be an element of humility too.
Yes. And we've been conditioned to believe this way.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it's almost like it builds up adrenaline. Someone has to say it. If someone sees it in me, then I know I'm being seen. What if you don't? So the more you know you through you, the more powerful your love is. Nobody can put you down anymore. And you can be with the people that used to put you down because their energy is different now.
They won't
or
be
you're different. You can be. It's like water and oil, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So you
that's
called yourself lady. Did you say you called it?
This person, she called me my lady, and I thought, wow.
You like that?
I thought because she did it out of such loving respect for me, like in the way she said it. I realized she had a very particular way of loving me, and that she saw me in a certain way that it's like I just like nobody had it. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I did once. I had a very special trip that I had to make some years ago, and I went to India first time. I had never been out there, and it was a beautiful experience. I was only there for 10 days. Had to come back, but I wanted to stay. But the way I was treated there by the people that I met, all strangers, they were so beautiful with me. And I remember coming back saying, you all made me feel like a queen, and I didn't know what a queen felt like. That's how I wanted to live. So I don't wait for the world to treat me like a queen. I am my world, and I treat myself like a queen.
Oh my God.
That's the difference. Now, the thing is that I don't look for materialistic to convey that to me. It's the emotion and the sentiment and the word power that I create myself in that. So it's with me. I can be with absolutely nothing. I don't need earrings. I don't need anything. I don't need lipstick. I don't need anything to know. That's how I feel about myself. That's the power. So it may be uncomfortable for some of you to do the love letter to self on your own. I also suggest light up a little candle, put something that is musical, that is anything that brings you into tap into yourself that you love. That if somebody did it for you, you would know that they love you because they know what you like. So right?
Yeah, this is beautiful, but so I'm just trying to make sense of it. So what are you telling yourself? What are you telling yourself in a love letter?
Whatever you give yourself permission to. So for example, if you're going to say something negative, which is where we go first, I would suggest say thank you and find something beautiful. What would you like to be acknowledged for? Acknowledge yourself. What instance in your life did you have to have supreme courage to step out of the comfort zone and do something that you never done before? When did you have to speak in your defense against something that you never thought you could? When did you have to say stop? You better go all the way. Now, acknowledge what took for you to do that, to be that person in that moment. Or when you had to let go, or when there was a breakup or you lost something. Who did you have to be to go on? So I would invite for everyone that's listening here today to revisit this interview and to tap into some of the things that I've said, because these are questions and things to consider from my soul to yours, and from, like, I've meditated, I have prepared, and even today before coming into this, it was, I did some chanting and some tracing, and I asked the divine to speak through me, because it's not Irma who's here sitting before you. I'm a vessel, a loving servant for humanity to discover self-love.
I love that. Irma, we're out of time.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we redirect people to your Facebook page, Irma Paredes, and also to join your free event on the 17th of this month, which is a week from today.
Yes.
Almost, right?
Saturday? Next Saturday, yes.
Yeah, Saturday. It's a workshop, and you learn all about how to love love to self. And
well, they'll have the experience, right? They'll do it.
Do it. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much for offering that. But I want to ask you, what do you want? What do you want?
What do I want in terms of love letter to self?
Yes.
I want people to attend the workshop. I want to work with people. Now I'm ready to step out into the world and work with communities, create more communities of people that want this conversation in their life and actually change aspects of their lives by doing the work internally. There are 3 specific conversations that I guide people through over a period of time. So that's one. The other thing that I really want is people to spread the magic of love letter to self. So please join my Facebook page group. It's free. I get to share more about the journeys of self-love, not just mine, but other people. And to share the experience with other people, because the more we share, like, I believe that the more I share this, the more people will have access to it, and the sooner than later, that 1 million will be maybe more than 1 million, expanding love in the world through a letter.
Beautiful thing.
And it's for all the ages. You can do it with your grandchildren, with kids at school, with teenagers, university students, elders, everybody. Like, it has no distinction of anything. Like you could even write a love letter to a tree if you wanted, if you're a love letter, a tree lover. I am, right? So it just bring your consciousness to the goodness of love.
It's beautiful. I envision this movement reaching so many people, Irma, and changing so many lives. And every single one of us, when we find that true self-love and like Debbie put it, self-acceptance and
Yeah,
self-compassion, that's when we can give it to others.
absolutely.
Not a minute before that. So I totally appreciate this. I totally appreciate you and what you do for everybody and for the world. I'm going to do my best to attend your workshop. I think it's going to be a great experience for sure. And I invite everybody to attend it.
Yes.
Let's see what we
Well,
can learn, right?
I thank you for your listening and your time and for granting me the space. And I also want to acknowledge Olga Kamener for connecting us, which she
Yes,
did amazing. Thank you, my
yes.
love. And everyone that participated here today. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you. And I want to say thank you to all our viewers. Thank you so much for the time you put in to listen to us and for all the comments you gave us, for the engagement. Thank you for committing to living your best life. And I will see you next week. Same place, same time. This has been another Dela's voice, sparking your soul. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Irma.
Bye bye.